Awesome, man. Well, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Introduce yourself a little bit. Tell us about you, and we can kind of roll into it from there.
Hey everyone, my name's Alex Kelley. I am currently a high school special ed teacher. I started competing in Strongman and played football for University of Colorado. I started at center there for 3 years, and that's me. That's a very simple version of me.
When you talk about your football career, when did you really get into football? Was that something that you fell in love with at an early age?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been into football and loved football. I started playing organized football my freshman year of high school.
Wow. So, I mean, I guess nowadays, especially, that would be considered, pretty late into the game.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I grew up in California and they have the Pop Warner League there, but I was always too big to play Pop Warner football. I would have had to like only play center or guard or something because I was like just so vastly out of the weight categories that I wouldn't have been able to do anything else. So, my parents were like, "Yeah, it won't be fun for you. You just wait till high school."
Yeah, definitely. I remember I only played a year, but of the middle school football, and you have all the kids that couldn't touch the ball that with the X on their helmets, and
Yeah,
it's I can definitely see where as a young kid that would be like, give me a sport where I can at least score or touch the ball at some point.
yeah, exactly.
So, what did you do any other sports when you were growing up? Obviously before football.
Yeah, so growing up, the whole time I did basketball till I was in high school, and then in high school I did football, wrestling, and track.
Gotcha. So, what was your event or whatever in track?
I did the shot put and the discus. I wasn't good at it at all. I did it because I was super bored and I just kind of I didn't know what to do with that cuz football and wrestling was such a time commitment, and then all of a sudden I had this time, that kind of that third block of the school year. I wanted something to fill it up because I got so bored. So I just did that, and really I was there to hang out and talk to all the girls. But yeah,
That sounds like high school.
yeah.
It seems like though the track and field athletes, a lot of them at least, when you have that diverse experience of just athleticism and learning how to move your body in different ways, it seems like it translates to, kind of your main sport in a lot of times.
Oh yeah, I especially wrestling. Football was my main sport, but I learned so much about how my body is and the way it moves and how to use it in wrestling that I translated to football because I played offensive line my entire career, and offensive line is basically wrestling. It's you versus another man, and your whole goal is to move him back and drive him into the dirt and kind of impose your will on him. And that's exactly what wrestling is as well.
Yeah, I never thought about it like that really, but I could definitely see where that would be very advantageous to get that movement down to it's funny like you hear about athletes especially at a high level athletes, they may learn ballet or they may learn like
Hmm.
footwork things or something that translates into just like a small part of the game maybe even, but it especially at the highest levels it can make the world of difference.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of hit the nail on the head. All those little things you pick up from different sports or different hobbies you do really do translate and help you get a better understanding of yourself for your main sport.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too. Like if you're looking at high school kids, and one thing you mentioned was like learning how to move your body, and I think we forget how young high school kids actually are. Especially I don't know, maybe even nowadays with an increase in like video games and indoor activities. Like I don't know if we maybe see more kids that are just not as good at moving their bodies at an early age. I have a very very small amount of experience, but a little experience working with high school kids, and it's just like you see some kids that are developed, like look like their age, but they just don't move the way that you would expect a kid to be able to move. Sometimes it's kind of crazy, really.
Yeah, I've kind of seen there's just a weird balance, I guess. A lot of kids are kind of, staying at home most of the time playing video games, but social media has really showed a lot of these young kids either healthy or unhealthy habits of how to lift and how to train and do all that. So you kind of get, this huge disparity between these crazy young athletes at 15 lifting all sorts of weights and the kids who just like sitting at home playing video games all day.
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely a growing gap, I think, in that perspective right there. When it comes to your own lifting weights, when did you start to do that?
The first time I ever touched a weight was freshman year of high school. And that, when I say like lifting weights, I trained for football. I didn't train to have the biggest bench or squat or deadlift or anything. It was, the way I trained was to be the best football player I could be. So like, there's like two different versions of me: the football training, lifting weights, and then lifting weights to see how strong I can get.
I think a lot of people don't understand that a lot of times that haven't been around sports. They think, oh, I have to have the biggest bench or I have to, have the biggest muscles instead of thinking from the perspective of performance. A lot of times I think we can kind of blur the lines between, how to train for specific things a lot of times. So your strength conditioning program or whatever you want to call it at your high school, it sounds at least, to me like it was pretty advanced. I know there's even now there's still some high schools that are kind of lacking in that respect. A lot of times it seems like you might have had, pretty good program. Do you feel like that gave you pretty good advantage moving on to the next level?
Yeah, our high school strength coach was pretty good. We had a designated coach to strength and conditioning for football, and he had all the certificates and everything. So that really did help. It helped kind of give me that strength foundation heading into college. But when I got into college, e- everything I did was sort of revamped. I went into college. I had a 405 bench and a 500 squat, and my college coaches were like, okay, you're strong enough. Now let's learn how to use that 405-pound bench, that 500-pound squat while you're running full speed to hit a linebacker. So it was a lot of, I didn't really gain too much strength when I was in college, but I became a lot better athlete and I learned how to use the strength base that I had in order to use it on the run or in weird positions and stuff like that.
That's pretty cool to have that because just from the a few people I've talked to where it's like, you go into college or even going into the professional level, like people that just don't have that strength and conditioning background and it seems like they have so much progress to make up compared to the people who have at least some kind of background in that. I can In your college career, did you come in contact with too many athletes that didn't have a very good background in high school of that?
Yeah, there was definitely a decent amount of those, but our strength and conditioning coaches were so good. Every year we would kind of start from ground zero. The first like summer months, first couple months of summer, we would have kind of, the freshmen or the more beginner strength guys. They would go early in the morning, and then somebody like me or people kind of to my level, we would go mid morning time. We'd be doing two different lifts, just stuff like that.
How did you kind of go into more of a general sense of your college athletic career? Like, how did you handle kind of the whole college athlete thing? Was it something that was natural for you, or was it kind of struggle?
It's definitely something you have to learn. I always say that in order to play college football, you have to love college football because it's a full-time job on top of doing classes. It was kind of funny. Some person I follow on Instagram posted his schedule heading into fall camp, and it's exactly what I remember. Wake up time 5:30 a.m., treatment 6 a.m., breakfast 6:30 to 7, meetings from like 7:15 a.m. to about 9:15. Then you have your first practice of the day at 9:45 to 11:45. You have a couple hour break, and then you have lunch, couple hour break, more meetings, more practice, eat again, and lights out at 10 p.m. and 5:30 a.m. you start the next day, and that's for an entire month. So you really, really have to love college football to play college football.
Yeah, that's insane just to have that kind of structure around you. It seems like military-esque kind of structure really.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, but it is what it is. Everyone's doing it, so you all kind of embrace the grind and the crappiness together.
And it's funny how like different people would embrace that because to me that would be like something I would actually kind of enjoy because I love structure and it's funny, but some other people would be like, I can't handle this. And did you see a lot of guys that just couldn't really, they thought they could handle it going in, just but couldn't really get with the program really?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, probably half the guys that come in freshman year quit at some point, the 4 or 5 years of college. So yeah, it's hard, and there's a lot of guys that quit because it's not for them, and they want just the college experience over playing college football.
Yeah. And what's your take on kind of the new rule with image and likeness kind of deal? Is that something that you're in favor for as an athlete?
Yeah, I'm definitely in favor for it. I don't know all the details about it, but those guys bring in so much money that I'm glad they're getting paid. I kind of had this conversation the other day with a few of the guys on the Colorado football team. They go to my church, and I sounded like a crotchety old man. I'm 28 years old, but I'm like, man, you guys have all this, and you guys can get paid now, this and that. And I'm like, wait a minute, why am I complaining like an old man? I'm only 28 years old.
That's just like I think that's such a. I agree. I think it's really cool that they have that opportunity now, but I can definitely see the dangers of that to where like you just mentioned like the schedule and all you have to do and keep up with, and now potentially you have some athletes going out trying to get sponsored or get paid by somebody and having to deal with a business on the side. So I can see where that could definitely get challenging for a lot of people having to have the business side and the college side or the football side and the athlete side.
Yeah, I can't imagine having to deal with all that, but it's just how it is nowadays, and I'm sure some people will fall through the cracks of it, and some people will make the most out of it, and just how you can adapt and learn to live with all that.
So when it comes to your football career, how did post college go for you?
It was good. I spent about a year. Well, let me backtrack a little bit. I got an invite to the San Francisco 49ers mini camp. So I spent about 4 months preparing for that. I went to mini camp, got cut before the first preseason football game, and I still had that desire to keep trying out. Kept working out for about 6 more months. I had a workout, a personal or private workout with the San Diego Chargers at the time. That's when they were in the process of moving from San Diego to LA. That didn't pan out either. Spent a few more months. I tried out for the Ottawa Red Blacks of the Canadian Football League. That was a tryout with 120 guys in Atlanta, Georgia in August.
Oh wow.
It was brutally hot, but I personally think that I could not have done better than I did, and it didn't work out then. So I called it quits there and started kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do in life a little bit. It's kind of funny. So I'm a high school special ed teacher, and I kind of just fell into it. When I was trying to figure out what to do with life, I knew I wanted to coach football. So I was living with my aunt and uncle at the time. I walked over, they have a high school 1 block away from them. Walked into the front office. I'm like, hey, my name's Alex Kelley. I played at CU. Do you guys need help with the football team? And they're like, yeah, do you want to be our offensive line coach? I'm like, sure. And I also needed a job at that time. So I was like, yeah, do you guys need help? anywhere in here? And they're like, yeah, we need help with special ed. Can you start tomorrow? So literally I walked in the office and I had a job the next day. I filled out all the paperwork that day and I was there the next day working with special ed and fell in love with it. It wasn't originally what I wanted to do. But during that, I did that for almost a year, fell in love with it, and was working in the special ed world, not as a teacher, but it's called a paraeducator. I finally decided last year that that is what I wanted to do. So currently getting my master's in it. I graduate in December, pretty excited, but that was life outside of football. And then again, kind of around the same time I started my master's program, July of last year, the COVID 15, as some would call it, was really setting in hard. So I started lifting again. And, within the first 2 weeks, I, I bench pressed 405 and I was lifting to lose weight. Then I bench pressed 405 pounds. So I'm still kind of strong. And I found that show on the History Channel called History's Strongest Man because I knew about strongman a little bit, and the little that I knew was Hafthor Bjornsson on the game, on Game of Thrones. He's 6'9", 400 pounds, absolute giant. So in my head, I'm like, oh, well, they're all like that. And then on that History Strongest Man show, there's Nick Best and Eddie Hall. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm their size. And Eddie Hall won World's Strongest Man. I'll give it a shot. So I typed it on Google, strongman competitions by me. And I found one. There was one 2 weeks from when I Googled that. And I did it and I took second.
Wow. It's interesting to me too, like the strong, like kind of the perception of strongman is that ultra, huge, massive person, almost to the point to where like some people may be discouraged by trying it and getting into it. But a few people that I've talked to who are a part of it and do it and stuff like that, like they're bigger guys, but they're not anything something you can like work towards and achieve, certainly. So it's I think it's kind of cool when you really do, like you said, kind of look at the athletes that are a part of it and think, hey, this could be for anybody if they want to put the work into it.
Just to add to that, I think what Anthony Furman is doing right now to make that 105 kg class grow, I think it can only be good for the sport of strongman as a whole, because you get a lot of these guys who are just brutally strong people but not very big, and a lot of them could be like, well, I could compete at 231 pounds. I can't compete at 331 pounds. So you bring in this whole new class of people, and I think it's amazing, and I can't wait to see in the next few years the sport grow even more.
Yeah, I think it's definitely growing in popularity. Looking at your training, like how do you, or at least how initially did you respond to that kind of training difference, just going from more of like an athletic style training or just a typical gym workout to a strongman kind of the tools and things they use for that?
I mean, I'm having a lot of fun with it. I never got to explore how strong I can really be in college. So right now I'm in that zone of like, well, let's just see what I can do. And that's kind of been my approach this first year. I sign up to these competitions and I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't know any of these implements that we're going to use or anything. Let's just see what happens. And so far it's worked out, but I'm having a lot of fun kind of getting to explore how strong I can really get.
It seems like just the different implements that there are in strongman, and then different implements that they're coming out with for general, fitness and everything. Just a huge difference. Somebody that can do easily hold a 70-pound kettlebell or 100-pound kettlebell, whatever it is, and you get, maybe an implement that's 30 to 50 pounds, and it seems like it's the same weight. I think it's so interesting how we can kind of diversify and become stronger in different areas, and maybe even kind of more functionally stronger. A lot of people don't like that word. It's kind of trendy, but like,
Yeah, I actually had a conversation with the owner of my gym today. The CrossFit Games just happened, and I saw that they were doing a Husafel sandbag and a yoke run. I'm like, it's just crazy how the kind of two worlds are mixing together, and it's fun to see stuff like that.
Yeah, I think CrossFit's one of those things to me. It's just like they'll they'll do anything, they'll try anything. And
Yeah.
have you ever considered, trying it, getting into it or something like that?
No.
CrossFit? You haven't?
I like running short distances with heavy weights. I do not like running that much.
Yeah,
I
that's
do it because I have to.
it's insane. I think the really the CrossFit, I mean, any of it, but just like the amount of kind of like a crossbreed of an athlete you have to be like a top level CrossFitter to me is just like, man, you got to definitely, I think you have to have some advantages, and I mean, definitely work hard as well, but
Yeah.
having that capacity is crazy.
Yeah. I don't really have the body type for CrossFit.
When you were getting into it to lose some weight, and did you see yourself, doing strongman training for strongman? Did you see yourself completing any of those goals along the way, or did it kind of just turn into a change in body composition? Like, what was the change there?
Yeah, I mean, so like you said, I originally got into it to lose weight, and then I did my first strongman competition, took second, and then I did another one like a month later, and I took third at a little bit heavier and bigger show. And I kind of decided to chase strongman more than losing weight. But it's definitely been an entire body recomposition. Um, I've been the same weight this whole time, um, but I'm getting a lot stronger. So
I think it's so
it's
interesting
fun to see. Yeah,
how we like look at the scale like that, and we're thinking, okay, or look in the mirror and think, oh, I need to lose weight, and then that can be, not necessarily a bad thing, but you find something you like or you love, like strongman or powerlifting, CrossFit, bodybuilding, whatever it is, rock climbing, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I can, you know, I can do this thing, and it's more fun than just going out there trying to lose weight. And then all of a sudden it's like the weight or the whatever, the scales just like out the window, it doesn't matter anymore. And you see yourself getting healthier and feeling healthier, but it's more about the fun of actually going to train instead of like, oh man, I gotta go, lose weight or try to lose weight again on this week and this exercise and this diet and this everything. It kind of, I think when you find something you really are passionate about, it changes kind of things up.
yeah, I agree.
Where do you see yourself with strongman?
Yeah, so I definitely have a 1 year goal, 3 year goal, and 5 year goal. My 1 year goal, just I'm still so new that I'm having fun with it. So if there's a competition that I like, I'll just do it. I have SC Strongman Corp Nationals coming up. I'm doing my official Strongman Games online qualifiers coming up this week. Just having fun with it. And then qualified for the Amateur Arnolds. I'm assuming they'll be next March, fingers crossed. And then after that, I'll really, after the Amateur Arnolds is when I'll really rein it in and kind of be like, all right, so what do I need to do within the next 2 years to make it to World's Strongest Man? My goal from now until the next 3 years is to make it to World's Strongest Man, and then my 5 year goal is to win it.
Wow, that'd be pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Have you hired like a coach or a trainer or anything like that, or have you just been going off of your own knowledge?
Yeah. So my gym owner he kind of took a risk on me a few months ago and sponsored me. So I don't have to pay for my gym because it's a pretty expensive powerlifting gym. And he also is paying for a trainer for me and really dialing in the lifts because, the first 3 months of me training strongman was just like, well, this is what I used to do for football. So it should work. And then when I joined the gym, he saw, he kind of saw like, wait, you've been doing all this just working out like you did for football and you qualified for the Arnolds. Okay, let's really figure this out. And I got a trainer and I'm excited to see these next couple competitions how they go.
When it comes to things like your diet, how do you go about that now? Like, are you, super strict on it? Are you kind of just going with the flow?
Yeah, so that's one of the things I'm really trying to. Well, there's two things I'm really trying to figure out how to do extremely well. One is sleep. Never been good at sleeping, and really trying to um, get that down. So I get good sleep. The other is the diet. I've always joked I can be a guy who looks at the weight room and gains 5 pounds. So again, my gym owner, shout out to Russ. He has drafted a diet plan for me that seems to be working so far. I'm trying to shed a little bit of fat while I gain muscle. That it's pretty hard to do, but it's working so far. So I'm at like 4,100 calories a day. I started this diet like a month ago. Before I would have like 4,100 to 4,400 of whatever I wanted, you know, Oreos and burritos and all the good stuff. But now I'm at 41 to 4,400 calories of clean food. And it's a
Yeah.
lot harder to do.
Oh
It's a
yeah, I can.
lot more eating. So I'm full the whole day, the same amount of calories, but I'm like, goodness gracious, I have to eat again.
Yeah. Gosh, that sounds pretty tough. But when it comes to sleep, I think that's something that's so overlooked, not just for athletes or for in the fitness game and in health, but like in general, it's so, we as a culture, I think we're just go, go, go. We have to be productive. Sleep is almost seen as like a weakness sometimes.
Yeah, I agree. I was just gonna add, like in college, I was terrible at sleeping. I would get 6.5, 7 hours of sleep, and I was just tired all day. And then I would go practice and go to class and everything. But now that I'm really getting better at sleeping, I've noticed that my energy levels are pretty constant throughout the whole day. Even if I have a super hard lift afterwards, I'm still about the same energy level. Then I get tired at about 9:30, and then 10 to 10:30, I go to sleep.
Yeah, it's cool. Like when you do start to optimize that sleep, and I've been actually trying to do the same thing here recently, and it's so cool because I'll wake up and I'll just I'm of course I'm like a little tired because I'm getting up, but like compared to a few months back when I really just was like willy nilly about it and didn't really have any specific information on how to do it well, you wake up and it's like, oh man, I could go back to sleep for 3 4 more hours. It's just, I think sleep just could be, if we could really educate and reintroduce the idea of the importance of it to everyone, it would be, I think, interesting to see the levels of illness and mental illness and all these things that we're kind of struggling with right now.
Yeah.
Have you had any other like recovery methods that you have just started doing with Strongman that you've never done before?
I've always been pretty good about, stretching and staying loose throughout the day, stretching after a lift and all of that. Apart from that, I don't really do anything too different from what I did in college. In college, it was nice because we had giant cold tubs and hot tubs and sauna rooms and all that. And I don't have that now, but like there's a lot of benefit. I feel pretty good just before I go to bed. I'll foam roll and stretch my legs and everything, and that's about all I do.
Even just doing something like that, like just doing something, I think is so important when it comes to maintaining your integrity of your body. A lot of people, sometimes even me included, and even though I know better, it's easy to just like fall into the habit of, oh, I got to do this workout and then I got to, go do something else instead of like making the recovery part of your workout. I think that's something that I guess it's just kind of the same thing. We try to be, uber productive throughout the day. It's like, oh, I got to go work out, and then I got to go, you know, do this and go to the grocery and go cook, and then I got to do this, that, and the other thing instead of really focusing on and understanding the benefits of it too, because it's not just something that you do. It really does play a huge role in the next workout and staying safe. Really,
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate what you said. Like treat the recovery as part of the workout. I've never heard that, so I like that. I'm gonna adopt that saying.
Yeah, well, there you go. So I'm glad
Yeah,
I could.
thank you.
Usually, it's me pulling from the guest, and I'm glad I could pass something on. I'm sure I'll learn that from somebody on the podcast.
Yeah.
That's kind of the beauty of it. I get literally get to pull like, little segments and fragments and things from people like you and all the great guests I've had on so far on the podcast, and uh, it's just really cool to be able to get to do this kind of thing, with people from around the country, around the world, with different experiences and backgrounds, and college athletes and doctors and physical therapists and military and first responders, and we all have something to offer. I think when we can pull from each other, I think that's when we really get to grow the most.
You kind of hit it right there. I've learned so much from the guys I've met doing strongman. Pull different things from here and there, and yeah, it's crazy how much you learn just from each other.
Yeah, and when it comes to like you learning new things with a trainer and with having, access to a pretty good gym, like what would going in before all the strongman, like just with your experience in college athletics and strength conditioning compared to now, what do you think kind of like eye-opening that was really?
I've just learned an entire new kind of world that's out there, the strongman and strength sports world. Like I didn't know any of this existed. I had a concept of like the CrossFit games and concept of world's strongest man, like that crazy dude Bill Kazmaier from the 80s or whatever it is. Sumo wrestling. I'm like, yeah, strongmen are weird. And then I got into it. I'm like, this is actually pretty fun. Like the people aren't as crazy. They're still pretty crazy as uh, compared to the normal person, but they're not all as crazy as Bill Kazmaier. But yeah, I've learned some of the biggest lessons I've learned. I'm very good at making friends. So my first strongman competition, I met Stan Carradine, who's been the world's strongest man, professional strongman, and a guy named Chris Porter. He used to train with Brian Shaw, and they have taught me so much. Stan has taught me what it takes to make it to the world's strongest man level. What kind of strength you need and just the kind of grit and determination you need. And Chris has taught me the finer details and the nuances that only a guy like Brian Shaw and Chris Porter can provide. Like, oh, if you move your foot here as opposed to there or whatever, the sandbag's a lot easier to pick up. Only somebody like Brian Shaw could think of something like that. So those two have taught me just so much about strongman and how to use my body in general that it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool to get to kind of learn from some of the best, and like you said, just the nuance of each tiny thing you can do to make something a little bit easier, a little bit more efficient, more productive. I think that's really cool to have that opportunity. It was good to get to meet you. Good to talk.
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.